So for a week 2 discussion, we're talking about working in Photoshop. So let's go over our background for today. Photoshop has a lot of tools available to help you create imagery from scratch. The image on the left is an example of the type of imagery that can be created from scratch using the Photoshop tools. The brush tool, the shape tool, the gradient tool, and the paint bucket tool. Those are all tools that can create raster images, so creating them out of pixels. Photoshop also has tools that allow designers to recreate images. So imagine if you have an old photo with a badly damaged or stained section. So for those of us who still get our photos printed, or maybe you have family photos that were your parents or something in their photo album, and maybe somebody had folded the photo or crinkled it in some way, we can go in and fix those images in Photoshop. That's one of the great things about Photoshop. So there are various, raster-based tools such as spot healing and clone stamp that can be used to recreate damaged sections of images. There's the paintbrush tool. So digital illustrators use the paintbrush tool to create original digital illustrations or to paint lighting onto photos and photo composites. Like all of Photoshop's tools, shortcut keys can be used in conjunction with the menus to adjust the size, the opacity, the color, and other brush effects. Then you have the shape tools, which is what we used last week. So though it's recommended that the shape tools be used in vector mode, meaning it's a shape, the tools can also be used in raster mode as long as you don't intend to resize the shape. So simply selecting pixels from the menu at the top of the screen. So you can use it as a way to select something. The reason vector mode is recommended is because, again, vector shapes can be resized while raster shapes will become blurry and pixelated when they're resized. Then we have the gradient tool. So again, found on the same button as the paint bucket tool, the gradient tool can create a blend between 2 or more colors. The settings can be adjusted at the top of the screen, and when used in conjunction with blending modes, the results can be really interesting. Using the gradient tool is an appropriate technique for creating gradients or other imagery that involves one color blending into another. Then you have the paint bucket tool. So that tool can be used to color in a whole document with a solid color or color in a section with a solid color. And it's an easy way to fill a portion of your document faster than with the brush tool. Again, what we used last week where we use the paint bucket to color in our background. So painting with the paint bucket is an appropriate technique for filling in large areas or selections with the solid color. So this week, here's our prompt. Find an example of a raster-based design that was made in Photoshop. So again, a pixel design. It can be a digital illustration, a wallpaper design, an advertisement, or a photo composite. Pinterest, the Design Inspiration, and CG Society, those are all great places to go to look for designs made in Photoshop. Then you're going to research the techniques that the designers used in Photoshop to achieve undetectable edits to create or enhance a recreation of an image, or recreation. I must need to go on vacation, right? Recreation. So then what you're going to do is you're going to embed or share the link to the example that you found, analyze the image and discuss what tools were used in the creation of the image, and then based on that research on those tools to recreate an image, what techniques do you think the designer used and why? So for your citation, you might use articles that discuss Photoshop tools or Photoshop techniques and how best to use them. You might find articles from experts that suggest what makes Photoshop projects effective or ineffective. And your initial and reply post should work to develop a group understanding of this topic. Challenge each other, build on each other, always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. And I'm actually going to share one other place that you can go. So Smashing Magazine has great great articles, honestly, on design and development, things like that. And you can even search based on topics. So you can search on, you know, Photoshop, or photoshopping, I guess. No, Photoshop, I guess. And see what they have going on. Workflows and shortcuts. There's a lot of things on designing apps in here. Doing more creative artwork. Vintage graphic design inspiration. So, you know, there's some great articles. There's 110 that come up, but Smashing Magazine is one of those web resources that you should probably bookmark, because it's really going to provide you with a plethora of information over the course of your career. Seriously, I go there all the time. And again, there's instructions on how to embed those images into your discussion reply.